deep in the nation. Break it down simple, demystify the system. Demystify deep in, tap and tune in. Know it's online, yeah, the whole net moving. Bills get passed, yeah, we track that movement. Region space, drop, alpha, prove it. Macro talk, but we still stay winning. Better go up when the crowd start listening. From the chain to the world we bridging. Deep in the connection, yeah, we building. We don't chase hype, we decode systems. Congress floor, yeah, we read legislation. Bills get signed, market shift quick. Policy change, we already on it. CPIs, rate cuts pending. Fed chair talk, got the charts all bending. Infrastructure plays, long-term vision. Deep in those, get real permission. Fiber lines run through.
Hey, yo, how's everybody doing? Hey, it's Monday, February 16th. I'm going to be heading out to ETH Denver tomorrow. Super excited. I'm going to meet Tyler with Unleashing DeepIn for the first time. I'm actually staying out at his, he's got a place out there, so it should be fun. If anybody's out there, definitely hit me up, man. Would love to meet some people from the community while we're out there. There's a lot of events going on, man. It's going to be pretty exciting stuff, so super stoked to get out to Denver tomorrow. Going to be doing some packing tonight. I'm normally a last-minute packer, but I'm going to try. I did my laundry today. I'm going to try to get ahead of it because I have an early flight. So we'll see how that goes, man. Oh, man, there's a lot going on in markets. I have prepared quite a show today. We've got some huge lithium deposit that got found. Got the government involvement with AI, some kind of alarming things, actually. Logan Paul's catching some heat that overlaps with the crypto markets over his sale on his Pokemon card. Let's see, what else we got here? We're going to talk a little bit about the energy fiasco that's upcoming. What opportunities are there that we can maybe play on the AI front with some of these AI data centers? We're going to look at the Bitcoin chart, the Ethereum chart. I'm going to show you a short that I opened this weekend that actually paid off pretty well. Harvard's in the news for their crypto investments. So we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about AI agents. The head of product for X sent out a bombshell tweet over the weekend that had a huge impact on the AI agent scene. Spend some time digging into some of the virtual side of things. I'm going to show you if there's anything there. And then we're going to look at Helium. Helium has had quite a past 24 hours, man. That chart is pretty crazy. Aoki also having quite a run. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is kind of pertinent right now. I'd say there's a study that came out on launching the token in the bull versus the bear market and just how much that actually matters. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Oh, man. Had a little quote, too, I thought was cool this morning. Let me pull it up. I started a new book. By the way, I just finished this one. It's a great read. I've been kind of on this Mediterranean diet the last few weeks. It's been freaking awesome. I highly encourage you all. I know I've said this before, but I started last year doing a minimum of 10 pages a day. And I think anyone can find the time to do it, whether it's waking up 10 minutes early, maybe instead of scrolling on social media in the morning, or instead of watching Netflix, reading before you go to bed at night. It's really been awesome, I have to say. And I've been doing a wide range of topics, a lot of macro last year, which has been paying off really well on some of my trades this year. It's really paid dividends. But that nutrition book, I'll tell you, better understanding what you're putting in your body makes a big difference. Not just I guess like health-wise, but my energy, like everything's a lot better, and understanding what I'm eating. And I have shifted my diet quite a bit based off what I learned. And that was a really good read. I've got a few more coming up here, as I was going to show you. The Lean Startup, I'm going to be reading. How Countries Go Broke. That's Ray Dalio. Got this one, The Coming Wave on AI. So that should be interesting. And then this quote on this one I just started today. How about this? What we hold on to perpetuates our reality. What we let go of creates new possibilities. Well, how about we let go of 2025? What a year that was. I think we got brighter times ahead, guys. So super excited for the future. We're going to be playing. So, I've been developing new skill sets. Obviously very bullish on DeepIn, guys. And what my plays are if you come and you watch my shows every day. Very bullish on crypto. Obviously, I'm also looking at trading opportunities, and I've been printing some money on shorts, really, on commodities as well. So more well-rounded approach. We did a lot of macro last year, but now I think this year it's about putting that into action, making money off that knowledge. And it's been going really well so far this year. So I'm super excited about where things are headed, man. But let's get into some broader news, some of the stories of the day. You might have seen some of this, and I want to get into the details here, but $1.5 trillion lithium deposit found in the U.S. It's a super volcano crater. It says site could supply batteries for decades. Says that it might hold the largest deposit of lithium ever found. So this obviously just broke today. The deposit could hold worth $1.5 trillion at current prices. It could be ample supply for the lithium industry. Of course, this is very important for batteries especially. But just going to say, let's talk about the history here. There's something that suggests it happened several million years ago, and it talks about the whole process and everything. But it does go to say here the U.S. wasn't lithium barren before this discovery, but it has been largely reliant on the Silver Peak mine in Nevada since the 1960s. But last year, they also found a significant deposit in southern Arkansas. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It does talk about how the global demand is expected to expand 8 times over by 2040. It does talk a little bit, too, about how battery technology is getting better. So that could work in the opposite direction. But nonetheless, huge find for sure. So exciting stuff there. Some other news that was breaking, I kind of got into the details on what's going on here. It says the Pentagon's threatening to cut off Anthropic in AI safeguards dispute. So as you all know, Anthropic, well, their CEO has been very vocal about concerns over the use of AI. In particular, it's very against mass surveillance of Americans, which I appreciate, and fully autonomous weaponry. And this is going to be a topic I think that is going to have a lot of scrutiny in the coming years and maybe even coming months, and be under the microscope is how is AI used, and is there a moral dilemma for AI to be used for military purposes? It's actually something that Ex Machina, interestingly, they had an investment they were looking at. It was a robotics company that was specifically for military purposes, and it was shut down. They did not invest in that. Could have done a 3X, but they did not. The community decided against it. So I think this is going to be a really interesting topic. In particular, though, the tensions here with Anthropic is overlaps with our move into Venezuela when we got Maduro. And there's rumors that, Palantir was using Anthropic's AI software behind the scenes and AI technology. The U.S. used that technology in that military operation. And this has raised some eyebrows because, of course, again, Anthropic CEO is very against that. And there are rumors that he then asked Palantir whether or not their technology was used in that operation. And that has now spurred comments from the U.S. government saying that they might actually require people to no longer use Anthropic's technology on the back end. So breaking it down, here's some background here. So Anthropic signed a contract valued up to $200 million with the Pentagon last summer. Claude was also the first model the Pentagon brought into its classified networks. The Pentagon also works with ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok in unclassified settings. And it says that all three have agreed to lift guardrails that apply to ordinary users for their work with the Pentagon. But now they're talking about moving into the classified space. And the Pentagon is insisting on all lawful purposes to be standard for both classified and unclassified purposes. Says that 3 of these groups have agreed to those terms. One of the 3 has agreed to those terms. The other 2 were showing more flexibility than Anthropic. But there is this battle now going on between Anthropic and the Pentagon. And they're talking about cutting off Anthropic altogether. Again, their CEO, this Dario, I don't know how you say his last name, Amodei. Not sure. But he is very well known to be very against those types of military purposes. So we'll see how this evolves. But again, I think this is going to be a big topic moving forward on how AI is used and robotics too, as we move into having military robots. Some more crossover. This is a report that came out today talking about SpaceX and xAI are competing for a new secretive Pentagon contract. There's a contest going on right now for autonomous drone swarming. Per Bloomberg, I actually pulled up the Reuters article on this one. So it talks here about how Elon Musk, SpaceX, and its wholly owned subsidiary, xAI, are competing in a new contest for drone swarming technology. Those aren't the only two companies, by the way. There are other companies involved in this as well. Says that Musk companies are reportedly among a select few chosen to participate in a $100 million prize challenge initiated in January. Kind of wild. And I didn't know this. Musk apparently, back in 2015, was among a group of AI and robotics researchers who wrote an open letter in 2015 that advocated a global ban on offensive autonomous weapons, arguing against making new tools for killing people. So a little history there I was unaware of. But it does talk about this drone swarming technology. It's the ability to use like voice commands to control multiple drones at once. And I don't know that this is apparently, these are like the stakes for this competition, but the voice commands must work through gunfire, wind, and radio static. Has to be able to orchestrate over 100 units. So I guess 100 different drones, managing collision, avoidance, and battery life autonomously. Has to work on air, land, and sea, and jam resistant. So must function even if the GPS or cellular is cut. So pretty wild stuff there. The government's been known for some time now to be working on anti-drone technology, but this whole swarm technology, I don't know how I feel about that. That's kind of crazy. So a lot of news on the AI front, military combined with AI. I think we're just getting started here. So we will see. We'll see. I think that's going to get pretty wild. Let's talk about Logan Paul, man. He sold this Pokemon card for $16.49 million. Holy crap, man. That's a lot of money. So there's a little bit of, I guess people are a little bit pissed off right now, but here, I'll show you the $492,000. Pretty insane. So here is the drama, and Logan Paul did respond to it, but so this was purchased back in 2021 when he purchased this card originally, and then he launched this, and he replied to these, but he launched this Illustrator on Liquid Marketplace. So it basically, there are posts going around that saying that Logan Paul auctioned off 51% of this card that he just sold, and on chain, right? So he sold fractional ownership into this card, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he sold 51%. Now he just re-auctioned it off, and all those people are screwed." Is the rumor that's going around. As it turns out, originally, yes, he did offer to sell up to 51%. He did only end up selling 5.4% back in summer of 2022. But legally, and this happened in May of 2024, apparently he bought back that 5.4%. And all those people that had invested in fractional ownership were then reimbursed, and they could go and claim that money back on the site. That site subsequently was taken down. And Logan did pay for that site to be put back up again so that users could get their money back off again. So there's a little bit of I'd say misinformation going on about this, that he sold 51%, screwed all these people. But I would say, like, I think for the people that did buy 5.4%, it was kind of a kick in the nuts a bit to be like, okay, you just sold this card for way more and you just paid us back. So we basically just gave you a free loan, essentially. You paid us back the same amount that we bought it for. That kind of sucks. But regardless, I imagine, there are legally, he got this all sorted out before auctioning this off, I would think. So those are the true details behind all of it. But it does sound like anyone that did, pay for that 5.4%, the ones that didn't claim that money back can go and do so now at the same value they invested in, of course. So that kind of sucks for them. All right. Let's talk about the energy situation with these AI data centers. It's a big topic. I've been talking about this now for almost a year, guys. Now we're starting to see it in the news quite a bit more. And there are a lot of opportunities that are going to come up from this, both in crypto and traditional energy plays, in my opinion. But it says data centers are now 7% of the total U.S. power demand. This is expected to continue growing, obviously. And then there's this post that came up. I saw Elon talking about it. He said, solar will utterly dominate future electricity production. It's like, that's interesting. We're seeing a huge surge in new solar capacity coming on in the U.S. And this is something that I did cover last year, that I expected us to see, quite a move in some of these solar stocks. In particular, I brought up First Solar. And this is in my video on my channel that I posted. I think at the time we were about $200, right around $200. So, it's up over 10%, which is not too shabby. I think I posted that like 6 months ago, but it got me looking at, where are the energy sources going to come from? So you can see here, this is the US, by the way, on solar energy production. Solar is obviously is growing quite a bit. Nuclear has been dropping, but obviously I expect that to change, and I'm going to show you why. And then we look at, gas. Natural gas has been pretty much the same. Coal is obviously dropping. If you look at this compared to China, China has been increasing their coal production, which is kind of BS. It's like we're over here worried about the environment and CO2 emissions and trying to just like, we're just going to keep building coal plants. But they are also, they're looking at it from a lot of different angles. Like their solar is increasing drastically, nuclear as well. And it got me looking at nuclear. And this is something I had talked about quite a bit, but I think it's really important. And I think there's going to be some really good opportunities to invest in here. So I looked at who is building nuclear plants around the world. And this is a really cool report, but you'll see here, like China is all over the place. China and India, really. But if you go down, it does give you a breakdown. So right now you can see this is under construction, plan, and proposed. And proposed, I think, gives us some insight into how much demand is coming and where we can, and which countries are going to be building a lot of nuclear plants. So I was going down here. China is by far and large. They have 37 that are being built today. They have 43 that are already planned, 145 nuclear plants proposed. Y'all, that is nuts. You go down the list. India's a big one as well. They have 6 that are being built, 16 that are planned, 26 that are proposed. You go down the list here, and there's not any really huge players. Russia obviously has a lot that are planned. They don't have a ton of new ones proposed necessarily. But let's go down to the U.S. Look at this. 0 being built. 0 that are planned. But check out the proposed. 25. I expect this number is going to tick up quite a bit. But this is a big deal. It was not long ago we thought there would never be another nuclear plant built in the U.S. I think we are going to end up relying pretty heavily on nuclear plants looking forward. In fact, if you all remember back in May of last year, the president put out an executive order for deploying advanced nuclear reactor technologies. So this is going to be a big deal. I think that there are going to be a lot of opportunities here. This is something I did talk about like on this video here. So one of them was URA, the global uranium ETF. It was at 41.34 at that time, which ended up being like kind of fortunate timing. The other was NextGen at 787 that I covered in that video. If you look at URA, I say it was like kind of lucky timing in a way, because I wasn't really charting that much then. But looking back to like 2011, 2012, that was like a super critical number that we were at there, is a very obvious long right at $42. And as you see, I mean, that's been support ever since. That would have been a really good time to buy. I did get a position, not because of the timing and looking at the chart. I was just like, oh, yeah, it's a good buy. So it worked out really well. But I would say for me, if I was looking to long this, as a trade, if we get up to the 67 figure here, this is a really critical level. If we break above that, I think that could be a really interesting long. It looks very similar to something that we saw like with silver. So that's something I would be looking at. The other one is NXE. That's next gen. This thing flew. I mean, we're at 1162, so that's up like 70% since I covered it. This one is at all-time highs. So, I think it's a good play. I actually learned about this one in one of the macro books that I read, which is why I covered it. But NextGen has some mines that in a lot of supply coming on for uranium in the future. So I think they're an interesting play. I might wait for, we saw a big pullback here. This is a really critical line here. So for me, to expand my position, I might be waiting to see if we have another pullback closer down to the 994 level before I'd add to a position there myself personally. Until then, we're kind of in no man's land. I mean, it hit all-time highs. We're just kind of, chopping around in that range. But I'm going to look for other opportunities in nuclear, because I think that's going to be a massive opportunity, man. You see all the proposed nuclear plants for the U.S. It takes years to build those, but I guarantee that there's going to be some huge opportunities and long-term opportunities for nuclear. So nuclear and solar are something I'm really looking at. And I mentioned natural gas in the past as well. Natural gas is something that I'd be looking at more so mining, fracking companies, and potentially turbine companies to build out the plants themselves. Natural gas itself, it's so volatile. And, when you have really cold weather, we saw a huge surge and we just saw it pull back. So that's something I'd certainly look for in the future. If we see a really bad, winter front coming through, cold front coming through, potentially playing that volatility in the future, because that would have paid off really well at the end of January. So things that I'm learning, I'm picking up on for future use. But really, I'd say the main things I'm focused on for the energy side of things would be solar, nuclear, and then maybe something like the hardware, the components that go into the natural gas plants. A deep in play, though, that's very interesting is Akash Network. And there's a couple of GPU projects I have on my radar that I'm looking at. I interviewed the Akash Network's founder. He corrected me on that. I called him the CEO. He's like, "No, I'm a founder. It's not a CEO." But they're tapping into the whole AI agent movement. So they're going to be powering these AI agents for a fraction of the cost. The other thing, though, that's really noteworthy is that they are introducing a burn mint equilibrium. So one of the things that over the last year they really focused on was demand, right? Customer demand, making it easier for their customers to use their platform. They didn't put a whole lot of focus at the time on utility on the token. That's something they're changing. So there's something they're going into testnet now, is this new burn mint equilibrium, open market buys, and adding utility to the token. These are things that I pay attention to, because if there's been a disconnect with the token, if they all of a sudden are introducing some new tokenomics that's going to connect the fundamentals to the token and the revenue is going up the way it is, that's something that's very interesting to me. And we look at Akash, it's at 32 cents right now. It's not like a super low cap, though. I mean, it's sitting at $94.2 million. So that is one thing that gives me a little bit of pause, because right now, I think they're at $4 million a year in revenue. I would want to see that revenue really ticking up, and they are implementing some new changes that I think could lead to that. But the market cap's still a little bit high in my opinion. But again, I think, looking at some of the moves they're making, I think we could see some price action appreciate here, following those moves. Another one is Nosana. So Nosana sitting at right now, is that right? 8.5 million. That's super low. And this is one that's getting usage as well. And I think it's getting to a point now where it's looking pretty damn cheap. So this is something I might look to be adding to, because we saw a run on the GPU projects in 2024. And I think that was really just around like the whole, sense that there was GPU shortages, frankly. And that narrative played really well. I think that we're going to see this all over again with the energy narrative. All it takes is for, a few more of these AI data centers to get built and news that they can't be turned on. And all of a sudden, I think you're going to see people clamoring for, really tapping into some of the unused compute that's already out there. And I think these projects based on that could do quite well. So those are the ones I'm really looking at, Nosana and Akash. Some of the other ones, I don't know if I necessarily believe their revenue numbers, because they can say really whatever they want. There's some that are claiming some incredibly high revenue numbers that I don't really buy into, but I think Nosana and Akash are two that I do actually believe what they say as far as how much revenue they're generating. All right, let's talk a little bit more about crypto here. We saw the V-shaped recovery. This is the hash rate for Bitcoin. Of course, the amount of computing power on the network. It's funny how you can make these charts look however you want. I actually went to the larger view at that chart. So indeed, it was a recovery, but nothing too crazy. I mean, we see these types of recoveries quite a bit over the course of time. But regardless, generally hash rating going up is a good sign. We normally see that price does tend to follow a hash rate to an extent. But looking at the chart, guys, like it's pretty gross, really. Let me see if I can zoom a little bit more in on that for you. Well, I mean, really for me, and I know I've talked about this before, but it's just, we're still in a downtrend. I mean, it's possible the bottom is in. Like we wicked down to around 60,000 on that huge crash we had just recently. I guess that was a couple weeks ago. But I'm not really interested in trading this at all. I mean, if you're a longer term mindset investor, DCAing in is just not a bad choice when we're seeing this much fear in markets. But for me, like as far as anything actionable, 72,000, reclaiming that so we can go back into an uptrend, and then more specifically, I'm looking at the $74,000 number. This is the number that we broke following the election. This is the number we retested when Trump originally announced the tariffs. This is the number that we broke down below more recently that has really crushed the price of Bitcoin. If we break above that and show some strength, I would actually be interested in longing. But those are the two levels I'm really keeping an eye on in the interim. Like, it's just kind of disgusting, frankly. There's not much going on there. Speaking of Bitcoin, though, Harvard cut some of their Bitcoin position and they added to their Ethereum exposure. So this is in a filing this is a filing as of December 31st. So they dropped. They still hold a lot of Bitcoin. Okay, so this is the iShares Bitcoin Trust. They are at 5.35 million shares versus 6.8 million. So they did drop their holdings on Bitcoin quite a bit, but they're still holding $265.8 million worth. They did add iShares Ethereum Trust, so $86.8 million worth of Ethereum Trust. So interesting play there that they moved from Bitcoin into Ethereum a bit. Their overall exposure, though, is $352 million, man. This is, again, Harvard. So pretty wild stuff. They announced that they had $116 million back in August, and they had tripled that by November. So, Harvard's making a big play on crypto right now. I wouldn't be surprised if there are going to be other schools that follow suit, but that's a pretty big deal, pretty big vote of confidence, I would say. And again, moving into Ethereum, that could bode well for alts. Obviously it's a major. Ethereum is not the same as like some of these altcoins, but I think that is an interesting signal nonetheless. Looking at Ethereum, this $2,000 level has just been, it's a very psychological level. I actually did play this over the weekend because we were kind of battling that $2,000 number there. I think this is on Sunday, and it was just looking so weak, man. And I entered a short on it right around $2,000, and I put a stop loss above in case it did break above. And sure enough, we saw it majorly break down. And I actually on a couple of these, so I hit 80% on one of the apps, this EdgeX app, and I had another 81% on the other app. So I haven't been moving into many trades this last week because there just hasn't been much actionable. There's not really great setups in the charts, but I was able to play this one. I did close them before pre-market trading started Sunday night because you could see a lot of volatility on that. So I closed those out, was able to lock in a pretty good gain there. But overall, like you look at Bitcoin, you look at Ethereum charts, you look at Solana, we're just kind of chopping right now. There's not really any great structure to play at the moment. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it until further notice, until we see something change there. As far as the market structure, Bill, we've seen a slight tick up today, that 59% now, so up 1% before 2027, and 39% before June. So that's nice to see some upward action there, but we need to get that across the finish line, in my opinion, if we want to see any major price action in a positive way this year. Not to say it can't happen without it, but it'd certainly be a catalyst. We haven't had a major catalyst in quite some time now. So that'd be nice to see. What we got here? Thoughts on VVV? I don't know what VVV is. Let me see. Is that a crypto or is that a stock? I'm going to see a Venice token. Oh, interesting. So this has been over the last week up 125%. I don't know anything about VVV. $182 million market cap. Dang, this thing is really pumped. What is the all time? Oh man, this token's been around for not that long, since January 2025. Huh. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at it and see. I don't know anything about this token. Where's it traded at? It's on Coinbase. Yeah, I don't know. I'll take a look though. All right. What do we got here? Oh man. So this happened over the weekend. This is head of product that replied here to Kita. And in particular, this was a huge hit to the AI agents over the weekend. So this is really the moves they're making is to end the spamming that was taking place, and fees being collected without people knowing and understanding. So says everyone knows. Actually, that's not the most important. This the part here. He said, genuinely, I want crypto to proliferate on X, but applications that create incentives to spam, raid, and harass random users is not the way. This is a big reason why they ended the InfoFi stuff. Like Cookie.fun and some of those that were running campaigns for people to just spam posts all day. They ended that, right? The same thing was taking place with some of these AI agents. I said that it meaningfully degrades the experience for millions of people only to enrich a few people. And yes, we are launching a number of features in a couple of weeks, including smart cash tags that will enable you to trade stocks and crypto directly from Timeline. So there's a little bit of a misunderstanding here, by the way. So people thought that you would be able to trade through X. As it turns out, they are enabling trading, but it's going to route you to other brokerages, other trading platforms. So it's not going to be done through X necessarily, but it will be a lot easier to trade and be routed to trade through X. So he did clarify on that. He did go on to say that we are rolling out more detection for automation and spam, and a lot more to come. If a human is not tapping on the screen, the account and all associated accounts will likely be suspended, even if you're just experimenting. While we aim to support legitimate use cases of agents, this will take some time to do properly. For now, we recommend holding off on plugging in your bots. If it's critical, you can use the official API. So we saw a little bit of a sell-off across the AI agent space following this. This was on Friday, and a bunch of these got hit particularly hard. Now, in some cases, I think it actually provided a good buying opportunity. In others, we're seeing some of these pivots. So in particular, Banker and Clanker. So both of these, they were launching tokens through BankerBot on X. So it involved apps minting tokens on behalf of users' agents without explicit consent, then spamming claim your fees replies to drive virality, buys, and fee accrual. This fueled explosive hype, but was super spammy. So these two in particular got hit really hard. So if you look at the chart here, this, of course, was back here on the 13th. You'll notice we saw a pretty big drop off here on Clanker and Banker as well. I mean, this was up to like $100 million market cap, dropped down all the way into the 50s. So both those got hit particularly hard. Now, a lot of others did as well, but in my opinion, some of these other ones really shouldn't have. I think it was a little bit of a misunderstanding. I've mentioned a few that I'm pretty bullish on. Kelly Claude, again, these all three of these have devs that are doxed from the Web2 world, huge followings on X, and are building useful things. So Kelly Claude's building applications that is generating revenue. So you'll notice like this thing, obviously right after that announcement, we've seen a little bit of a hit here and a pullback across the whole AI agent space in general. So this is one that I still am optimistic about, really looking forward. Another one that I think could be a little bit undervalued is this Felix one. Same thing, right? Doxed dev from the Web2 space, large following. Revenue is actually about as high as Kelly Claude at this point for Felix. So this is one that, the chart looks decently healthy. We'll see what happens, but I think both these could end up being decent buys. And then this one as well. Oh man, it's up to $1 million. So I was looking at this last night. I was like, man, it's like 600,000. So I kind of want to add to my bag. So this is a dev from MetaMask that created this agent. It's looking like it's seeing some crazy price action here. This is one that I think is somewhat people are sleeping on, right? So they had also some interaction with one of the guys from over at Wallet Connect. So this is something that's being built out. I would go check out their X page, but this one, man, I should have added a little bit more, but now up to 1.2 million. So these are all three that I think could end up running. We've seen a little bit of a pullback, and I think this weekend, those announcements from Nikita did not help things, but they have held pretty strong. The other thing I've been looking at is virtuals, and I have to say, you can go and look here. They have their leaderboard rather. So it shows you which agents are generating the most revenue. Man, I'll tell you what, like you can get lucky on some of these. And really the thing to look for if you want to play this, I don't know how sustainable any of these are, by the way, but if you can find some that pop up the leaderboard, get in really, if they've been created within the last day and you get in really early, like Knox is one that, was sitting around like a 40, 50,000 market cap, got up to $1 million. Most of these though, that I've found on virtuals, it's like you want to get in at like 10,000. If they're on this leaderboard, you'll see them pumped like 100,000 and they just die. So it's like, you can get a quick 10X if you're really on top of it, man. But none of these, like all of the ones I've looked at, they're like up and down. I'll show you a couple examples. Like Spark was one that was on that front page there, right? You could have gotten in if you got in super early. You had an opportunity to get under 20. It pumped up to like 110,000. Boom, down, right? We're seeing a lot of this. Like Clark was another one yesterday. Got up to like 220,000, died. So like these are ones that, on virtuals, I'm keeping an eye on it just in case I find some. I think it is in a way you can get it like a quick 10X, but it's got to be one that like you're in and out from what I can tell. I haven't seen anything sustainable there. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. I was following it pretty closely this weekend. So I'm just trying to leverage these AI agents as much as I can, because that's kind of where the alpha is right now. That's where a lot of money is flowing. The three that I covered, I think those are ones that to me seem sustainable. Virtuals does not. Just looks like quick trades, people getting in and out. So if I find anything else that looks useful, I'll let you all know. All right, let's talk about helium a little bit. Man, I'm kicking myself a little bit on a trade that I was eyeing before I went to bed last night. I'm going to show you on the charts, but I also want to talk about the reason for the price appreciation on helium. So I talked about this a little bit last week, but Amir put out this message, this tweet about how their carriers were viewing the helium locations. And he said here, like, we spoke about ways to help our carrier partners improve the visibility and the quality of service that they get from the helium, installs or helium locations. So just a little background here, like for AT&T, they have cellular coverage, but there are certain areas where they don't have great coverage. In particular, especially inside venues, right? It can be really hard to get good connectivity inside there from a cellular tower. So Helium is setting up Wi-Fi offload. In other words, if you're an AT&T subscriber, if you go into a location that has a Helium setup, your phone will automatically move over to the Helium network to give you a better connection in those areas. So AT&T will pay for this, right? Pay for you to have for better connectivity to the Helium networks. So it's better for their customer experience. But for a while, they're having a really hard time determining which locations were actually providing value, essentially, is what it comes down to. And that's what he says here is a bit of a black box for their carrier offload partners. But they said that one of their carriers now, I don't think he mentions which one, one of their carriers now has been doing work to get better info, better data points to determine which locations are better for them and actually providing real value. And what we're seeing is actually really good news. We're seeing that they are increasing the usage of the Helium network. So that says a couple of things. I mean, for one, they're seeing the value, right? And the amount of value they're getting from these Helium offload locations. That's great. The other thing is that's more revenue. Okay, that's more revenue for Helium. That's more tokens burn. That's more utility. So those are all great things. And that is a big reason why they're continuing to see these all-time highs on their metrics. 3.4 million daily active users. See, the hotspot totals are increasing, traffic increasing, the revenue is ticking up majorly. And that's because, again, some of these offload partners were very conservative. Now that they have more information on which ones are actually providing value, they don't have to be as conservative. They can really utilize and dive into those locations. And we are seeing now 56,748 in revenue per day. That's a pretty big deal. Let's do some math on that. It's over 20,000, or sorry, over 20 million, 20.7 million per year on ARR. So that's a big deal, guys. And I would expect that to continue climbing. All that's good for the token. In fact, we are seeing that still quite deflationary. So the burn is exceeding the new issuance of tokens. That's fantastic news. You can also see this on Blockworks platform here. So you can, see the inflation rate is very deflationary, especially after that recent change. So once that carrier started offloading more after they had those extra data points, so we look at this trend. And I think now we're starting to see the price catch up a bit. And this is something I was looking at last night, and I'm a little frustrated. So I was like, right before I went to bed, I was like, man, there's really no charts that are actionable at the moment. And I was looking at Helium. And one of the platforms I'm on actually allows for trading on Helium. And in particular, this thing got so oversold. This is going back to 2023. There's a really critical level here. And I was watching it very closely. It was right around $1.36. And in particular, so again, this is looking back all the way to 2023. I was looking at this level and I was like, man, this is either a short opportunity or could become a long opportunity if this breaks through. And it was super strong and broke through. And I thought, okay, where can this go? if let's say this turns into support, this could be a really interesting long. And the next critical level I could find going back again to 2023, all the way back there, was really $1.56, $1.57 was the number I was looking at. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm going to bed. I don't want to I don't want to miss out on this. But at the same time, I've really been trading the majors, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, gold, silver, because they're a lot more liquid. You can't have one buyer or seller step in and really mess up the chart. I haven't traded anything that's like lower market cap like this on like Helium, for example. But I'll tell you what, guys, I should have, because the level I was looking at, that for a long, it literally tapped the level that I was eyeing for the next level of resistance. And I was just kicking myself this morning. I was like, man, I should have gone in, but it's all good. There's going to be plenty of opportunities in the future. But if anything, I was kind of excited because I was like, man, I found these levels perfectly. And that would have been an amazing long. And on the other end, it could have been a great short, actually. But nonetheless, great to see some great price action out of Helium, right? We got all the way down to, below 70 cents. We wicked down. That's incredible. So quite a run. We're about up over 100% now. This is just in the last week. So some huge changes. And again, this is why you have to pay attention to these. I know I did cover it on the live stream, but when things change like this, right, this is a big deal. This is a huge signal, right? That the carrier that's offloading data to Helium was not only finding more value than they realized in the Helium network, but were increasing their spend. That's a big pivot. That's a big shift. And that is obviously going, push the fundamentals up to a new level. And I think at that point, it was like, well, when did he put this out? This is on February 6th. I'm curious when this, look at that. That's exactly when this thing bottomed. Huh. That's interesting. If you look at that, February 6th is when he announced that. February 6th is right when we bottomed, and we've been up ever since that announcement. Wow. Incredible. So I'm gonna probably play some of these moving forward, not with any size. Like it makes me nervous a little bit on some of these that are lower liquidity. One buyer or seller could step in and really change the chart a lot. Obviously with gold, you don't have to worry about that. With Bitcoin, you don't really have to worry about that so much. But some of these smaller caps, Helium would be compared to those smaller cap, a little bit more risky to play those. The other one is Aukey, man. Aukey's been on a tear, up 80% over the last week. This thing was massively oversold. I mean, if you look, this was a critical level here, like 7.7 cents, going all the way back to September of 2024, right after their token launch, rather. And this was support several times. We finally broke below when things got super oversold. If you look actually here, again, support, broke below. And this was a key level here. And once we turned that into support, then we were off to the races. So I don't think there's any place you can play perps on Aukey. It's way too small of a cap. But, again, you can play this looking at, times to enter the position. Because when things are on the way down, man, it could be like catching a falling knife, right? You really want to avoid that. Now, obviously, if you have conviction, like I do, so my top deep in plays, I have really 5 that I've consolidated into. Those are ones as you sell, you can, DCA is the way, so you don't have to time the bottom. But, I think this is a kind of interesting finding for me, especially with Helium, because if I had played that, there's, 10x up to 12x leverage. Let's say a 10x leverage on that. That trade overnight, I could have played for 150% gain. So as opposed to holding this token through that entire drawdown, I exited back in January after they announced they were backing off right around here. So I guess I exited right around $1.70. I could have. I did exit, but I could have just held out and then waited for an event to re-enter, or just traded it overnight right there. I don't know. I'm thinking about different ways to play the market here, But with Aoki, I mean, damn, you could have DCA'd, and that's kind of been my play on these conviction plays. But again, or waited for this huge line to break, this critical level to really enter and feel confident that the bottom was in. And obviously that could have been another way to play this. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of different ways. I assume like over the year and looking forward in general, my thesis will continue to change as I get more knowledge, as I develop new skill sets, as I do more research. But regardless, I'm super excited, guys. I think that this is going to be a really solid year, and I'm excited to be able to play both ends, right? The going long and short, and really understanding some of these key levels without overcomplicating it, right? I mean, we're not looking at like, a bunch of moving averages or fractals or anything of that nature. I mean, it's really just looking at key levels, looking back, back in time. Same with helium, looking back to all the way back to really 2023, years back, and looking at some of these critical levels. And it's amazing how they play out in the charts. We see this. I've been looking at like Bitcoin and Ethereum a lot. It's amazing how those long-term critical levels do play in here. But anyway, fun stuff. All right, this is what I'm going to leave you guys with. Should you launch in a bull or bear market? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Well, this guy actually did a study on whether or not it does matter. He said here, every crypto founder thinks they need to time their token launch around bull markets. I always tell them they're wrong. Launch timing doesn't matter. They never believe me. Well, I built a tool with Claude Code to analyze every token listing announced on the Binance blog to settle this once and for all. And here's what he found. Almost no difference, guys. Bull market launches versus bear market launches. Delist rates, virtually little to no difference at all. It says here, statistically, there's no statistically significant difference between tokens launched in the bull versus bear market, meaning that they're indistinguishable. It doesn't matter when you launch your token. So how can I be so sure of it? This guy, I mean, he went through, he included a lot of data in this analysis. Now, he did go on to say, now, if you're a founder, this analysis might not be the end of the story. He said, even if launching in a bear market doesn't predict long-term token performance, there are other advantages to launching in a bear market. There's less competition for talent. Service providers are cheaper. Exchange listings are less competitive. That's very true. When the market's up and you're in a bull market, these centralized exchanges tend to charge more for listings. I said on the flip side, though, if you're doing a simultaneous token sale, you're likely to get more demand in a bull market. Okay. But on the whole, these things are probably a wash. The main thing is to just get your product out there and build something valuable. The example I always bring up to founders that Solana launched 4 days after the COVID crash in 2020. Man, think about that. Buying back then. I mean, that's what Sam Bankman-Fried did, right? Gosh, that was a generational opportunity. When Bitcoin wicked down to 4,000, that was as well. Sheesh. Imagine buying Bitcoin at $4,000 just not that long ago, back in 2020, man. That's crazy. But bottom line, it doesn't matter that much when you launch. Just freaking launch. If you're building something real, the market will figure that out. So I thought that was an interesting takeaway there. Whew. That's what I got for the show today, guys. I'm going to be again in ETH Denver, heading out tomorrow. If y'all are going to be out there, hit me up. Shoot me a message. I would love to meet people from the community. Hopefully you enjoyed the show today. And I'm going to be out there till Sunday. So I don't know. Maybe Tyler and I will look to live stream something while we're out there. We'll probably be pretty busy. If not, then I will catch you guys when I get back in town. And I'm going to be working diligently on my flights to get the Aoki and Akash Network interviews like finally edited all the way so I can get those things posted. Because those are some really good interviews. I've just been freaking crazy busy, man. But if you guys don't already subscribe, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Also, follow me on X, share and retweet if you would, because this is recorded. Appreciate all you guys. Until next time, peace out.